All right, I want to welcome on my next guest. We've got free agent NFL kicker Blair Walsh. Blair, how's everything going for you?
Good, man. I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we're getting into sort of like the nitty gritty free agencies coming up next week. Are there any guys that you're kind of keeping your eye on to see where they're, if they're going to be taken, if they're going to be going into another organization, or anybody that's catching your attention?
I think everybody's got their eye on the quarterback situation and which domino is really going to fall first and cause everybody else to have to pick a team probably too early. And you'll have teams start to reach on guys that they necessarily don't want to pay that much money to. I think the first piece you're going to have to wait for is Deshaun Watson. I think every team is just literally waiting on when are they going to make a decision on whether they're keeping him or not, because they don't want to be the team that makes that preemptive move to go get Marcus Mariota or Cam Newton. And then goes, wait a second, if we had waited 3 weeks longer, we could have had Deshaun Watson for the right price. So I think everybody's going to be really, really slow to the gun and free agency when it comes to the quarterback position. Yeah. Other positions, I think you're going to see guys sign 1 or 2 year deals, preferably one for them, because as soon as the cap rises again, they're going to want to get as much money as they can on the next free agency period next year. So I think you're going to see a lot of those specialized, highly incentivized 1 year deals. So it'll be intriguing to watch.
Do you think Watson would really sit out?
I think in this day and age, sitting out is kind of unheard of. And if you ask me my opinion, I don't think he would. I think he'd show up and play, because I think he, at that point, would be affecting his own teammates. That being said, I don't blame him for one bit for wanting to get out of there. And then, you don't want to waste your prime years in a rebuilding situation. He's already given, 4 years to them. And, he needs a fresh start. He needs a new situation. And I think it'd be a good clean break for both of them. And I just think they're waiting to see how much they can get for him.
What do you think the best potential destination he could go to?
That's tough. I'm a Dolphins fan from growing up. I'm from Miami, so I should be. I like Tua, and I like Tua in their system. I think that judging Tua off of the limited action you saw him in last year is dangerous. That being said, I think he's such a perfect fit for Miami. They're a win now ready team. Other situations that I could see him going to that he would be good with. I mean, if they ever did the Las Vegas Raiders, I think he'd be a good fit there. But Miami to me is a home run, slam dunk.
I know today I saw that the Chiefs released both their starting tackles. Did that catch you by surprise?
Yeah, tough business. You tear your Achilles in the championship game, and a month later, you don't win the Super Bowl and you're being cut. It's a tough business in the NFL, and nobody should feel sorry for these guys, but there is a human aspect where you have to remember that, guys lose their jobs, given they're all for their teams. And, right now he's sitting somewhere rehabbing his torn Achilles, which is a miserable injury. Yeah. And I think the Chiefs saw what they had to do. They have to rebuild their offensive line. What they showed in the Super Bowl was just not good enough. And I think this is their first step. I think they were kind of old on the offensive line, and both those two guys are great players, but you got to get younger, cheaper, and kind of grow.
And then I want to ask you, so I know you're a Georgia guy. Are there any guys we should keep our eyes on?
I cannot pronounce his name. Aziz. His first name is Aziz. I can't pronounce his last name. He's a linebacker from Georgia. He's been slated in the last 2 or 3 picks of the first round, but I watched him play all season. He just flies around the field. He's a game changer type linebacker. And I'm not even going to try to pronounce his last name because it'll be embarrassing for me, but Aziz is his first name, and he's a stud.
And I know, what's his name? Oh, Justin Fields was at Georgia, but he's going to Ohio State. What do you see from him coming into the league next year?
I think Justin Fields probably needs another year.
Really?
I think out of the guys who are coming in ready to go, he's probably not the most ready to go. But a good situation for him to fit into. He can flourish. You need a coach that's going to be patient with him. A sneaky one, I don't think he'll fall this far, but if Washington were ever to move up and get him, he's a perfect situation for Washington, because
they thrive at Ohio State.
He's had Cam Newton
quarterbacks.
Yeah. They don't need it more.
I searched Aziz, Georgia, and the guy from Parks and Rec showed up. So I don't think that's him.
That's not it.
That's not it. I don't know.
Anjuwari. It's something along those lines. He's a fantastic player, but he's got one of those tough last names.
Yeah, that's wild. And so I want to kind of get into your career a little bit. So you said you're from Florida. How do you end up at Georgia?
Started kicking when I was about 15 or 16 years old in high school. I'd never played football before, and I still to this day I've never played a position in football. But for me, a friend, wanted me to come out and try it out. And I was pretty good. And I started to take it seriously, get trained. And, coaches and colleges started coming to my school to recruit me. Next thing you know, I had, 40 D1 offers, and I'm going, okay, this is a reality for me. And then I chose Georgia because it was the best fit where I could kick. It was good weather, good academic and football. And I mean, my goal was to always make it to the pros, and Georgia just puts guys in the pros. That's what they're known for doing. So for me, it was a great fit and exactly what I was looking for.
What's the longest field goal you've ever hit on that somebody's got on record that they've recorded?
Ooh, you mean on like film?
Yeah, on film.
Ooh,
Longest one.
I'm gonna defer this and say that I was a little bit before the film age in practice. The only time you got filmed in practice was during live team reps. But I mean, the furthest I've kicked in a practice situation with like pads on, probably 71. But wind dated, and that was 23-year-old me. So
that's unbelievable. Do you think they should give kickers more points if they go maybe past 65 yards?
I'm a purist, so I say no. I like the way it is set up now. I think those deep kicks, they're hard, but you shouldn't be rewarded extra. It's not like you're going to reward a quarterback, more for a 40-yard bomb touchdown than you are for a 1-yard shovel pass. I mean, it's, you just got to kind of take it.
Why do you think so many guys had issue when they moved the extra point back?
I think, well, the old extra point was literally, you could almost make it with your eyes closed. And for us, it was a rep in game that we got with game speed, live snap and hold, and it counted. And for us, it was like in-game practice. It's almost the equivalent of a quarterback doing a handoff. He gets the rhythm down, he feels it. He's now more comfortable the next time he takes the ball out from under center. So for us, it was just practice. And now all of a sudden, you could go a game and have 4 extra points, which are all 33 yards, and have 1 field goal that was 25 yards. And you go, the hardest thing I did all day was kick extra points. It was unnerving for us, and it was a change for us. And I think it took a lot of us a while to get used to. But once you get there, you have to just realize that there is no such thing as extra points anymore. They're all field goals. So when you have that mentality, you end up doing better.
Wow. And so how did you when you got to Georgia, did you get accustomed to the game pretty easy, or was it a little bit of a process?
I started as a true freshman. We were preseason ranked number 1. Oh, cool. Matt Stafford, no Sean Marino, AJ Green. We were stacked. They threw me in there first game. I mean, I earned the job. I was ready to go. But my first kick was, I'll never forget it, 52 yards, left hash. I got shoulder pads on that don't fit me. My helmet's kind of turned. It doesn't fit. Nothing looks great about me. 18-year-old me. 52 yards, left hash, open end of the end zone, bombed it, and it kind of just took off from there. I think that showed the seniors and the upperclassmen and the coaches that, like, hey, this young guy, we can at least trust him a little bit here, and let's see how he pans out the rest of the year. And it was a great start to my career.
What's it like having a game-winning field goal as an SEC kicker?
Awesome. Those SEC towns are it's the truth. Those SEC towns live and die for football. So when you're the guy that, air quotes, brings the win that week, there's some extra special treatment. That's awesome. Those SEC towns are just unlike anything else. And I would implore anyone who has not been to an SEC game, once things open up again, you got to go.
Is Georgia just like a quarterback or a kicker factory with you and young Wei Koo? I don't pronounce that.
I'm going to correct you on this because he went to Georgia Southern.
I'm thinking
we have Rodrigo
Blankenship. I was thinking of Blankenship, with the glasses.
Yeah, with the glasses. Yeah, Rod's done well in Indianapolis. I think for why Georgia's such a kicker factory is that they let their guys mature. They're not quick to yank them if they have a bad couple of games. They recruit well. They pick out the guys with strong legs that have good mindsets. And, they're willing to take those small bumps and bruises for the long-term consistent career rather than pull a guy, bring in another one, pull him, go back to the original guy. Georgia's very, very patient with their kickers.
Interesting. Who's the best college kicker this year that maybe people will be hearing a lot about next year?
I think the University of Miami guy, Jorge Borregales, who won the Lugroza Award. He's got an absolute cannon. You watch him kick for Miami this past year. My sister's a University of Miami alumni, so I watch. But he was fantastic. He was a weapon for them, and they relied on him. And I always think kickers coming out in the draft, the guys whose teams relied on them, those are the guys that you have to target and be like, hey, he's got a good chance of becoming a good pro. You always have to be wary for the guys that play for those powerhouse teams where they get 9 attempts a year and not a ton of pressurized attempts. Those are the guys where you're like, they might struggle right away in their transition to the NFL.
That's unbelievable. What was your draft process like? Do you know Minnesota was looking at you?
They were one of the teams that worked me out. Yeah. I mean, I went to the combine and you saw who was interested in you. And then you have those individual workouts back at your campus. And then you really find out who's into you and interested in drafting you. But I've said this story before. Minnesota was not one of the 4 teams that I thought was going to draft me. I thought I had it down to the final 4. And I was like, it's one of these 4 cities. Let's go, starting to get excited. Next thing you know, I get that Minnesota area code call. I'm going, wow, I'm going to freeze my butt off, aren't I?
So what were those practices like? Because I know I was looking at the rosters from when you were there with Percy, Harvin, just that special teams. What were those kind of those practices like?
Oh man, Percy's a freak. One of the most naturally gifted athletes I've ever been around. Because I'm not a big guy, and Percy's a little taller than me, but Percy can't weigh more than I do. And so to watch him lower his shoulder and just truck guys out of the backfield, and we would throw these swing passes to him, it was incredible. You were literally watching almost a slot receiver just decking linebackers and strong safeties coming up to meet him. It was impressive. He's one of those guys where you wish he didn't have those migraines and that terrible health situation where that kind of stunted his career, because he could have been even more spectacular than he was.
You think about that old Seahawks wide receiver room with him, Doug Baldwin, Golden Tate, Sidney Rice. It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
So that draft night, did you know you were going to get drafted, or did you think you might have decided on a draft free agent like a lot of kickers do?
I'm smart enough to know that you never actually know. But I had it down to where I thought that there was about 3 draftable guys in our class. And when the first 2 went off the board, I definitely got nervous, because then there's no real reason for why a team has to draft you. If a team grades 3 guys as draftable, if 2 have already gone off the board, they're not going to draft you because they think they can sign you in free agency. So when Minnesota did draft me, I was ecstatic because I wanted to be drafted. I wanted the team to put that capital and that investment in me, because I felt like it gave me a better chance to make the team at the next level. Whereas the free agency, sometimes, they'll give you a signing bonus, but they don't really have anything invested in you. Nobody wants to cut their rookie draft picks. They just don't want to. So it was important for me to get drafted, and I always felt that way. So for these young guys coming out, yes, you might end up in a better situation, but getting drafted is a huge thing.
I think I saw Zerline went a couple picks ahead of you. When you saw him go off the board, you're like, all right, I'm next.
At that point, I had no idea.
Really?
Randy Bullock went off the board first to Houston, and I thought Houston was interested in me. And then Greg went off the board to the Rams, and I had worked out for the Rams, as crazy as this is, 2 days before the draft for the 3rd time. It was crazy. Yeah. So I thought the Rams for sure were interested in me. And next thing you know, they take Greg. And so there's Minnesota sitting there 2 picks later, picking me. And I'm going, okay, let's go.
Who called you?
Leslie Frazier, who was the head coach at the time. I love Leslie. He's been in Buffalo now, obviously. But yeah, Leslie called me, and, he's got that super quiet, unassuming voice for a stud defensive player and head coach. And I just remember being like, I don't remember anything he said. I just remember being ecstatic and pumped up.
That's awesome. What was your rookie year like? Was it like, let me rephrase that. Was it an easy adjustment for you? I know I think I saw it was you, Harrison Smith, pretty good rookie class.
Yeah, we had and Matt Khalil made the Pro Bowl that year as well. Yeah, we had a great rookie class. We had 3 guys make the Pro Bowl as rookies, which is unheard of. For us, Minnesota does a great job of drafting and building guys up through that way. They want to extend you. They want to re-sign you. Minnesota's not a huge go get a guy in free agency type place. Yeah. And so therefore they do spend that time necessary to make sure they are drafting correctly. And every draft class we had, I felt like there was guys that were contributing right away. So for my rookie year, I just remember being like, wow, there's 4 or 5 guys in this class who are going to play significant time. And that just is not the case around the NFL.
When you were at the rookie training camp, was there a young Adam Thielen on the practice squad running around, or was that before he got there?
That was a couple of years after I'd been there. Adam came as a rookie tryout guy, made the OTA tryout list. So now he's there on OTA on a tryout basis, and he is just catching everything. He's on the scout team catching everything, bothering guys on the first team. And we're going, wait a second, this guy, was a rookie tryout guy. Played special, was on the practice squad first year, played special teams. And I remember there's a game against the Panthers. We were playing outside in Minnesota's College Stadium. Adam was on our punt block team. Adam came screaming around the edge, stuffed the punt, picked it up, ran in for a touchdown. And that was, for us, that was Adam's coming out party, going, this guy belongs in the NFL, and this guy's going to make plays in the NFL for, years to come.
What's your favorite Adrian Peterson story?
Ooh, there's many. Playing at Detroit, my rookie year, actually, where we needed a win. And he was joking with me before the game, kind of in the lobby at the team hotel, that he was going to bust his first carry for a touchdown. And, if you've ever met Adrian's the most confident guy going, and he's humble, but that's what helps him is he has the utmost confidence in what he's doing. No joke, standing on the sideline, watching for that first carry, his first carry of the game, 80-yard touchdown to the house. I just was like, how did that happen? How did he call that? Just freak show moment. That was my favorite story of him from his performance standpoint.
Are you surprised he's still going? How much longer do you think he's got?
No, I'm not surprised at all. Like I said, if you've met Adrian always has this unwavering belief in his ability. So until someone literally tells Adrian that, like, hey, we don't want you, and that's like the unanimous 32 teams across the league reject him, he'll keep playing because, he's good. Yeah. He's still effective. He's changed his game from the standpoint of he can catch out of the backfield now. That used to be a little bit of an issue for him. But, I admire guys like Adrian who are willing to adapt their career and take a lesser role to keep playing a game that he's been playing since he was 8. So, guys like him I admire.
What was it like being on the league?
Strange. A lot of waiting around. I happen to know the 2 producers. That's how I got on. But they were awesome. I ended up waiting around literally all day in a trailer outside of the actual shoot. And my segment was only a minute long. And so by the time we get in there, I'm like, holy heck, I was ready. I peaked 12 hours ago. Can we go back and shoot it then? But it was a blast, to be around that. And I did it with JJ Watt at the time, who was just kind of becoming the JJ Watt that you know now. So it was fun.
That's wild. How many do people recognize you not from football, from the show?
Well, I had atrocious long hair in the show, so nobody really remembers that. I was in that let's grow it out phase, but I get it occasionally. It's very random when I get it.
So your rookie year, you're unbelievable, all pro bowl, and you're just kind of you're hitting everything. Were fans just kind of swarming you, or is the media? What was that like? It's like a 6th-round pick. He's killing it. Minnesota. He's putting him on the map. He's making everything.
I mean, it was a blast. It started to get to the point where you just felt like you couldn't miss. And it was odd. We kept getting these situations where we would have all these deep kicks where, your first kick of the game would be 54 yards and you're going, this is the NFL. There's no warm-up kicks in this league. There's no easy ones, but it was fun. We ended up kicking a ton of long field goals, which helped me get in a rhythm, because once you make one of those, it really just sets the tempo for the rest of the game. And that ended up happening 5 or 6 times throughout the year. So it became a rhythm thing for me. And I felt like I couldn't miss, to be honest.
With icing the kicker, if the kicker's mentality, it's just like, it's like a practice shot, or do you want to just tune it out? How does that work?
Some guys don't like it. Some guys do. I ended up liking it because the way I looked at it is we're on the field so few times during the game. And when we're on there for 15 seconds, maybe. And so when you get iced, you kind of jog onto the field, they time out, you end up standing on the field for 2 minutes. And so you just feel more acclimated. You feel more part of the game. It's not just some quick on and off, field goal attempt. And so I always liked it. It helped me calm down. And I always felt that my kick was better after being iced.
Who are your top 3 kickers in the league today?
In the league today, I think Justin Tucker's the best. There's no doubt. Oh no, man! Now you're making me think. I think Mason Crosby in Green Bay doesn't get enough credit as he do, because anybody who's played in Green Bay knows that is just one of the grossest places to play going. And then right now, you got to give it to a young guy. I think Jason Sanders in Miami is crushing it. First team All-Pro this past year. So I'd say Jason's in the top 3 right now.
What's the toughest field to kick on based on just field quality?
I think Green Bay, again, because Green Bay has this heating system underneath their field that defrosts the ground, and it makes it extremely, extremely slippery. So you go out there and if you plant too hard on a kick, your footing loses. And, I've busted my ass a couple of times to warm up and embarrassed myself, but thankfully never in the game. But that surface is pretty gross to kick on.
I think you're gonna say FedEx because they don't care. They don't care about
that sounds like a home field opinion right there.
I mean, like everybody's always getting hurt on the field. Like the seats. I don't know if you've ever been in the seats. Their seats are uncomfortable. I can't imagine any of the facilities. Hopefully they're building it up nice because as soon as they get a new name, they get a complete rebrand. They got to get the hell out of Landover and bring it back towards the city.
Hey, I'm against you. I actually like Washington football team. I actually like
really?
It. Yeah, I think it's got a soccer feel to it. It's got like a kind of a Premier League team to it.
I think it's got like a team that's playing the Harlem Globetrotters feel.
It definitely doesn't roll off the tongue, but I do think there is a uniqueness about it.
Interesting. If you have any ideas, what do you think they could make it? They could change it. Did anybody ever bring up to you when maybe you say, hey, we're playing Washington this week? Say, hey, that name's kind of offensive. Did anybody ever bring that up to you during your time?
It started to didn't it gain traction about 4 or 5 years ago where it was a thing, and then it kind of went away, and then it only got brought back up again this past year.
Yeah.
It should have been changed years ago. Yeah, I mean, it is an offensive name, and I happen to like the name they changed it to. I don't know. I've heard Red Hawks, Red Wolves. I mean,
I'm not anything.
I think football team's better than that.
I mean, like FC would be cool because that's kind of like a soccer, but like they got, it's weird when you have to return like, oh, what team are you root for? Football team. People think you're nuts.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's a great point you made. I would have said football club.
I like that.
FC is cool.
Like that. Yeah.
The team does have a little bit of a gimmicky. You are right. That's a good point.
Yeah. What was Pro Bowl like?
Pro Bowl was fun. I remember being a rookie, you don't know how really the Pro Bowl works or anything. And I remember
going Orlando or Hawaii?
Hawaii.
There we go.
I remember flying from Atlanta to Hawaii, through LA to Hawaii. And I got there and I was like, you know what? I'm going to take this real seriously. I'm going to have a great week of practice and have a great game because, I just had one of the best seasons of all time. So I'm thinking, okay, I need to carry that on. And I remember our first practice, we go to this, shitty Hawaiian high school field. It's raining. It is disgusting. And we have 4 reps. I make one of the 4. And I'm just like, what's going on? Like, what just happened? And long story short, I get back to the hotel. I brought my snapper and punter out with us. And my snapper comes up to me and goes, hey, Jason Witten is, right? I said, yeah. He said, Jason Witten just pulled me aside and actually asked me, he said, hey, is that kicker you guys brought with you? Is he actually any good? And I just remember at that point, I had the, light flick on moment. I said, okay, this week's about having fun. Let's not take it so seriously. And I ended up having a killer game. So it worked.
That's awesome. Year 2 was there. Just kind of like you just kind of like felt you like a bit more in the rhythm, or was there any difference in your preparation in the off season?
Year 2 was tough because we weren't a great team year 2. So I found that it was hard. We didn't have a lot of close games. We didn't have a lot of meaningful moments. So it was hard to get in rhythm. We still had a good year. I had a good year personally, but we struggled as a team. So that was tough to go through. And that was really the eye-opening experience to me of being like, hey, the NFL, you can be in the playoffs one year and, top 5 pick the next. So that was tough.
What's practicing like a kicker, like a practice like for you? Is it just kicking or a little bit of everything? What do you guys do for practice for special teams?
A lot of the way I like to define it is called hurry up and wait. You get ready and then you kind of wait. You get ready and you kind of wait. You don't know when your opportunity is necessarily coming because sometimes they'll have you kick during scrimmage type situations. And scrimmages can last for, an hour and a half. And next thing you know, you've had 2 field goal attempts and you've been ready the entire time. So there are those moments where the practices are long for you, but in terms of physicality, it's nothing. You stay ready and you train a lot. You do a lot of weightlifting. You do a lot of stretching. We're probably closer to the strength and conditioning staff than anybody on the team because they spend the most time with us. But yeah, the practices are something you have to learn to manage, and you have to learn when to kind of peak during these practices. You don't want to get out there during warm up and just start crushing balls and then, not kick for another hour and a half. That's counterproductive. So
I was talking to former he coached with the Jets, with the Falcons, and with the Washington football team, Ben Kotwika, former special teams coordinator. I don't know if you know him.
Yeah.
I pitched him an idea to improve field goals. I know you like how it is, but I got an idea to make the game a little bit more interesting. You familiar? Horse with basketball is kind of going one from each.
Right.
I think they should do that. You should implement that into the game. And with kickers, you could say off the upright. And if you call it off the upright, maybe on an extra point, you get 2. But if you call off the upright and it goes in, but not off the upright, you don't get anything.
I will tell you that there will be almost 0 kickers who choose that, because hitting that upright, it ends up happening a lot more than it should, but it is not that easy. So
really,
no, it's really not that easy. And but that is funny at horse. I like that. I've heard that. So I've heard what you just said, the horse idea, but that's how you determine the game in overtime. I've heard that. I think Pat McAfee said that before.
Yeah. What do you think of these new possible rule changes with the onside kick in overtime?
I think they need to do something. I think right now it's almost impossible to get it. No running up start. So the other team's going to get the ball first, no matter what you do. You know, in the old days, it was dangerous, but you could at least have that 10-yard run up where those guys are full speed by the time your foot hits the ball. And in 10 yards, they have a decent chance of getting there. Now it's like, you know, that ball has to have some weird hop and hang in the air for forever in order for your team to have any chance, or you're counting on, quite frankly, one of the return guys to just screw it up. Yeah. And I think there needs to be some sort of happy medium there where you do keep guys safe, but you allow it to have more than a 3% chance.
Yeah. Did you practice onside kicks? Like, did they say, "Hey, here's 15 minutes of practice, just try to catch the return team"?
Yeah, onside kicks are one of those things where once you practice them, you kind of have it in the bag, but you just have to make sure you're just like fine tuning it. It's not like free throws where you have to continuously practice them, but you know, maybe once a week for 5 minutes, I'll hit a couple of the ones that I'm good at and a couple of the ones I'm not great at and move on. Cause I mean, you could do it maybe 3 times a year.
Yeah. No, yeah. Cause I don't know if you ever saw A Longest Yard.
Yeah, I have.
You remember the guy, I forget the hell that guy's name, the guy who was like the backup quarterback who couldn't play quarterback, but he was the onside kicker. Brucey. Brucey's a legend. Him and Tracy Morgan, that was fantastic. But they had him as the onside kicker, and I could do that. That, like, just kick it, nobody knows where it goes. Like, I feel like that's my strong suit. It's
funny you said that. It's just hard to replicate. So like you can hit it and have no idea where it goes, but the next time you hit it, you could go 5 yards, and next thing you know, your coach is going, wait a second, you didn't even get it 10 yards. What's wrong with you? So it's a completely unreplicable thing. So therefore it's hard to practice it.
Did you guys ever in a game like try to throw off the defense, like maybe in like the first through third quarter, just like maybe audible to go to onside? Because I do it in Madden all the time. It throws out the person. I never get it, but I do it in Madden. You just go for the onside kick in the middle of the second quarter. The person's like, "What the hell are you doing?" I've never gotten it back. Eventually, it's going to happen. You guys ever done that just to throw off the defense? Be like, "What the hell are they doing?"
We've done surprise ones, but never audible to it. I think the scariest one I ever had, we played Miami and we got a punt blocked out of the end zone at the end of the game. So now it's a safety. We need the ball back to go get it into field goal range to score. You can't use a T after a safety. So I was the guy to do this, not our punter. I literally jogged out to the 20-yard line, held the ball in my hands, motioned him, and onside kicked it out of my hands to try to get the ball back. So that's the weirdest one we've ever done, but it's hard to audible to it because A coach doesn't want to give that much say to a kicker, and B, you know, most teams are ready for it.
It would make the games so much more exciting. Have you ever had to chase a guy down on a kickoff?
Plenty of times. I've tackled Devin Hester before, which is my claim to fame, AKA Devin Hester.
He's going to mention you when he gets into Canton. He's going to say, "I remember that."
He should. I mean, heck, he's had a couple games against me. He should. I did stop him one time from taking it to the house to win the game. That was sweet. He's amazing though. He was one of those guys who were so hard to tackle. You'd scheme all week to not kick to him, and he'd still find a way to run under the ball and get it. It's just, you know, for us trying to tackle a guy, it's not a natural thing, especially for guys who never played football, you know, basketball and soccer all my life. So it's always an unnatural feeling when you got a guy running full speed at you and you're not running at him and you're just trying to find a way to get in front of him and alter his path. So not fun.
Did they ever have you do tackling drills just in case that opportunity presented itself?
Yeah, I've had special teams coach have us do tackle drills. It's a sight to see. Let's put it that way.
That would be electric to see.
And then, of course, you've got the long snapper out there coaching you up, telling you how to do it, you know, how to tackle. And you know, he's got one tackle his entire career. So it's always funny that, you know, watching us do tackling drills on the sideline is actually probably the most comedic part of practice you could ever imagine.
Yeah, because I know, especially this year I've seen it. I don't know if they're training the returners. They'd be like when the kicker or the punter's the last man in defense, they just kind of say juke them and then they score every time.
Yeah. Yep. I think the biggest mistake returners make when they get to the kickers, they feel like they have to put on a move. And honestly, if they ran straight and fast and like you just said, barely shoulder shook, you get most kickers.
Who's the best returner have you ever seen besides Hester?
Played with him on my team, Cordero Patterson, freak, absolute freak. He was so good that one year we would allow him, our coaches would allow him to stand 9 yards deep in the end zone, jump up and catch any ball that was going out of the end zone because we wanted him to return it. You know, some guys are good. They keep ball the end zone. It was a sight to see. He literally had the green light to return anything at any time whenever he wanted and Cordero's really great at doing what we just talked about, making that one cut and going. He doesn't try to cut 15 times like a punt returner would. He just kind of makes the one cut, hits the hole, and he's a big dude. So it's hard to tackle him. But I think Cordero will be in the Hall of Fame one day as a returner, which is pretty insane to think about.
Which NFC North city has the best weather?
That's kind of like an oxymoron, right?
I think you're gonna say Detroit. As I was thinking, I'm like, there's no right answer.
Best weather?
Yeah, because you're from Florida and you're going up north. It must have been
Well, I mean, technically, isn't Chicago the most southern? Technically, I think it is.
I gotta look at a map.
I think Detroit, Green Bay, and Minnesota are all close on the latitudinal line. I think Chicago's a little bit further south. I would say Chicago, but the wind probably would probably put them out of it. Maybe Minneapolis, honestly.
Interesting. Is Minneapolis as cold as people say it is, like in the wintertime? How cold does it get?
Yeah, because it's very flat and the wind whips through it. It's very like a prairie flat state. And it's pretty cold. It's brutal.
That's wild. So I want to fast forward to 16th season, Seahawks game. Everybody's seen it. You put 3 in, gets to the final kick of the game. What was going through your mind?
Make it. Yeah. I mean, I was in a rhythm. I was feeling good. Yeah. I thought for sure I was going to make it. No doubt. Was
it a good snap? Was it wind or just a freak thing?
It just was one of those situations where it happened so quickly. And by the time it's over, you couldn't even really diagnose it until, days later. If I looked back at it, I would probably say that the whole operation was just rushed a little bit. I rushed it, and that's on me because I'm going to control that operation. But yeah, I mean, it was kind of hard to explain. There was anybody that's watched the kick, there was a lot of factors that went into it. But in the moment, it happened so quickly. You have no idea why or how. And you just, in that situation, you don't have a chance to move on. So that's the most heartbreaking part about those moments is that it's not like you missed an easy kick and you go, hey, I still have time to recoup it. You miss an easy kick and your season is over. It's a devastating feeling, but I've mentioned this before. I was very fortunate that year to be around teammates that were veterans that had been with the program for forever and had seen me have success. So I never felt like I had let them down more than I'd already did myself. Like they never made me feel that way. Yeah. So for that, I'm always grateful, and can always look back and have good memories of that time.
And nobody brings up the first 3 you made in a row. Hey, you wouldn't even be here. It'd be
besides my family and friends and my agent, maybe. Yeah.
Hey, it would have been 10-0 without me. So
right.
You're lucky we were in it.
Exactly. Yeah, we'll put it that way.
Have Vikings fans have they forgiven you yet, or are they still mad?
You'd have to ask.
They've had some success since then. They've had some success.
Yeah, I mean,
a year, move on.
You know what? I feel like I've been fortunate enough to learn this and be taught this when I was young. You don't play the game for the fans, good or bad. I mean, you're going to be on both sides of it. I've been on both sides of it. And if you feed off of the fans and their emotion, you're always putting yourself in a dangerous space because that's not consistent. You don't know when you're going to get the same consistent support, and you don't know when the negative stuff's going to stop. So you have to be so self-confident and so self-motivated, so self-aware that you can't let fans play that role. But I've said this before, the majority of fans I've ever come across in Minnesota are wonderful people, and they've always been wonderful to me. Yeah. And I think the people that are the most negative are the keyboard warrior people that won't ever say it to your face.
That's a nice way to put trolls. They're trolls. They're
trolls, yeah.
I've said this before. Saying mean things all the time.
Right. I've mentioned this. No one has ever come and said a negative thing to my face about that kick ever. Think about that.
Really?
Never. So that just goes, it's a good lesson for kids and young athletes in our society today, man. A, the internet's a terrible place sometimes. Yeah. And B, people forget, people move on. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah. Nah, see, I would be more cocky about it. I'd be like, hey, like there's 32 kickers in the NFL. I was one of them. I've had a bad
Oh,
day.
I mean,
Move on.
that's how you have to think. Yeah.
So what was it like going on to Seattle? Was it good down to get a fresh start, just kind of moving on?
Blast. Had an absolute blast in Seattle. Kind of really fell in love with the game of football again in Seattle. Anybody that's been around Pete Carroll's system and culture, it's infectious. I mean, your team meetings are just, they have your attention from start to finish. He's just, you're always motivated. He's the ultimate player's coach. He's loyal. And the way that whole Seattle system operates is that they want to accentuate what you do well and not focus on correcting stuff that you don't do well. And I say that, obviously they're going to correct mistakes, but they're not going to sit there and go, man, you're not a good drop back corner. We got to work on your drop back till you get it correct. They're going to say, hey, you're better at press. Let's find ways to get you in more press situations. It's simple stuff like that makes Seattle so elite from other programs. And it's why they've had a winning record now for 10 straight years almost. It's pretty insane.
Pete Carroll ever share his gum?
No. He shared a lot of books though. He would leave books in my locker every other week. So yeah, he's a big book sharer.
I figured he's like the kid in class. It's like, hey, I got gum, and everybody, because I've
no,
heard
he wants it.
Who was I talking to? I was talking to Chad Brown, because I think he coached there for a year, because he said he's got like big things of gum. I'm like, he must share. Did you ever get to meet Macklemore?
No, I never did. No.
I feel like that's in the contract. Like I get to see him once a week.
Right. Yeah. I'm disappointed too.
So there's all this stuff with Russell Wilson. Do you think he's gonna have to stay in?
I hope so. Yeah. I think Russell anywhere else than Seattle kind of doesn't feel right. I mean, he's meant so much to that city, and he's phenomenal. I hope he does stay. I hope they find a way to work it out. And I hope for some reason us and all the media is kind of blown out of proportion a little bit. I would love to see Russell Wilson in the Seattle Seahawks uniform for the rest of his career. Just make me happy.
Was Marshawn on the team when you were there?
Marshawn was not. No, we had Chris Carson his rookie year, and you knew Chris was going to be good in training camp when he was just running people over in padded practices, and you knew that he was destined to be the perfect Seattle running back. Was
Lockett the all-time returner when you were there?
Lockett was a returner while I was there, and he was just kind of coming into his own as a receiver, so he was stud too.
That's what I saw. That you got a shot with the Saints this year as like a COVID thing. What was that like?
They needed a guy to come in and be, for lack of a better word, an insurance policy during their playoff run in case their starting guy got COVID. And went there, tried out with another guy, beat him out, and was signed. And it was good for me to kind of get back in that situation where I got to compete against somebody for a job, albeit a job that was not really what I wanted. I want to play. I want to be a starter. But, like I've mentioned this before, every time you're in the NFL, it's just an absolute privilege and blessing. And for me, I just felt like it was a way to keep my name alive and show people that I am still really, really good at what I do.
How long were you there?
Probably a month.
Interesting. That's what you think Breeze is done? Because he still hasn't retired.
I mean, I have my sneaky suspicion that he's not, but I mean, there's no inside information to that. I can guarantee you, but I think Drew's the ultimate competitor, and it's tough to go out that way. I know that nobody gets their perfect ending and, walks off into the sunset besides maybe John Elway, but even John Elway wanted to play more. It was more health issues. He wants to play now. Him and Troy Aikman want to suit up and go play in the parking lot.
Honestly, I'd be all for it.
No, me too. I'd tune in. But I think Drew's the ultimate competitor, and he does not want to go out that way. So unless New Orleans is just 100% set on Jameis, I don't know why you wouldn't let Drew come back. Now that you have Taysom and he's had starting experience, I'd let Drew come back. That's for sure.
Interesting. Were you at the game against Tampa in playoffs?
I was, yeah.
When Jameis threw that touchdown, when you were like, all right, keep him in?
No, absolutely not. No.
Really?
No,
I can see.
Jameis is a great player. I think Jameis will go to another team at some point and ball. I do. I think the Tampa thing was toxic for him. So for me, no, in that moment, no. But I will say this. I remember texting my friends afterwards and going, man, anybody who says Tom Brady can't throw the football and he's kind of washed, they're crazy, because he was slinging it that day.
Were you surprised they won the Super Bowl?
In the moment, yeah. But when I look back on it, no. I shouldn't have been. I do it every year.
Does Jameis do like insane stuff in practice? Like, is he just like it was watching him? What is it like?
I would love to answer that question, but I'm telling you, when I say that I was in New Orleans a month, it was mostly quarantine because they didn't want me anywhere near anywhere else. It was not a fun experience.
Like designated survivor. Like designated
yeah, exactly.
kicker.
Yeah, that's me. I'm the guy that didn't go to the inauguration speech. That's me.
Like Kiefer Sutherland 2.0. That's
right.
Unbelievable. That's wild. And then you said you went back to school, got your degree.
Yeah. Strange because, you're a 30-year-old
in Athens.
Online, but you still have a ton of group work and group projects. And, you're dealing with people who are 19, 20, 21 years old. They're trying to, finish their degree 10 years younger than me. So it was different. It was a different experience, but I will say I'm super fortunate. Georgia has this program where, they help their student athletes figure everything out. Like to me, the toughest part was navigating which courses that I needed for each requirement and which classes would transfer over. It was mind-boggling to look at some of the stuff, but then, their support staff at Georgia is amazing. And the fact that they offered it to me 10 years after I'd been there is even more impressive. So I'm extremely grateful for that. And I'm grateful for those institutions that do have those types of programs.
Were you the oldest guy in the class?
For sure. Yeah.
Really? I had like a 40-year-old guy in one of my classes one time. So
Did you really?
Yeah. It's weird because you're like, oh, okay, they're kind of, maybe they're going back to school, but it's still weird. But that's unbelievable. And
it was even weirder when we had to give the presentation on like, hey, what have you been doing for the last, 10 years? And I was like, well, playing football. Sorry.
Did your teacher know you played in the NFL? The professor? Do they know?
Yeah. So they do. And like I said, the program that Georgia has, they do a good job of kind of introducing you to the teacher beforehand. So they know your situation. So they're going, hey, this is where this guy's coming from. I made it a point though. I wanted to finish with 4 A's and I did. So I'm proud of that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And then this guy's got one last question for you. You have any bold predictions for the offseason for the draft or as we get ready for the next season?
Bold prediction. Like I said, is it bold to say that Deshaun goes to Miami? Probably not. What? Deshaun goes to Miami and then Justin Fields finds his way to Washington. I think Fields to Washington is kind of bold. I have it on record. I'm good with this Cam Newton thing. I have it on record last quarantine period. So last March, my friend hosts a podcast and he had me on and he asked me the same type of question. And I said, Cam Newton to the Patriots makes a ton of sense. And he laughed at me. And a month later, he signed. So maybe I have clairvoyance on Cam Newton and Ron Rivera. Who knows? Yeah.
Is Cam done? Do you think he's going back to New England?
No, I don't think he's done. You never bet against guys like Cam Newton. You just can't.
I think he's a vegan. Can the vegan quarterback, can that thing work? I feel like you need meat.
Hey, if vegan means I look like Cam Newton, sure, I'll do it too.
You gotta wear the hat stuff. That's the thing.
I can't do the hair though. I can't grow my hair that long. I've already tried it. Remember, it looks terrible on me.
Yeah, no, he looks like the kind of guy that likes to feed pigeons at the park. And then how can people find you on social media, keep up with you and see everything you're doing?
I'm Blair Walsh _3 at Instagram, and my regular Twitter handle is Blair Walsh 3. Outside of that, you'll see me through various publications, and I try to stay a little bit active and give my opinion when it's wanted. So it's fun.
Awesome. It's been a blast having you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was fun.